Hey, everybody. Ready for another deep dive? We got a great listener request to learn more about why we have 7 days in a week.
It's a really interesting one.
Yeah, and it turns out it all ties back to some ancient astronomy. What folks thousands of years ago were seeing when they looked up at the night sky.
Hmm.
And well, I found this super cool video from Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson that explains it all.
Nice.
So let's jump in and see what we can learn. Okay, so first of all,
Okay.
I'm guessing when the ancients were looking back at the sky, their idea of a planet was a little different than ours.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Forget telescopes and fancy calculations. For them, a planet was really just any celestial body that appeared to be moving, wandering across the backdrop of the stars.
Huh.
It didn't matter how big it was or what it was made of. If it moved, it was a planet.
So like the sun and the moon were planets too.
Exactly. They were just as much planets as, say, Mars or Jupiter to the ancients.
That's wild. I mean, that's such a different way of looking at the universe than we do today.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. They identified 7 of these planets: the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn.
Wait a second. Are you saying, hold on, each day of the week is named after one of those ancient planets?
You got it. And it's not just some random coincidence either. Let's start with the most obvious ones. Sunday, named after the sun, which was a source of power and worship in so many cultures.
Yeah.
And then Monday, especially if you look at the Romance languages like Loons, it's clearly linked to the moon.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But I have a feeling it's going to get more interesting from here, right?
Oh, definitely. Let's take Tuesday, for example.
Mhm.
In English, we don't immediately see that planetary connection. But if we look at the Spanish martes, it becomes clear. We're talking about Mars, the god of war.
Whoa, so Tuesday is like War God Day. But what about the English name then? Where does that come from?
That's where the Norse god Tyr comes in. He's also associated with war. So it's kind of cool how our week blends both Roman and Norse mythology.
Yeah, it's like a cultural mashup across time. So we got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. What about Wednesday? I'm on the edge of my seat.
Wednesday brings us Mercury, the swift messenger god.
Yeah,
And that makes sense when you think about it, because Mercury is the fastest planet in our solar system.
right.
And just like with Tuesday, there's a Norse connection too. The god Woden is often seen as Mercury's counterpart, known for his travels and wisdom.
So each day has a Roman, a Andy, and Norse connection. Okay, this is officially way cooler than I expected.
Right.
What's next? Thursday, right. Bring on the thunder.
Exactly. Thursday is Thor's day, named for the mighty Norse god of thunder. But think about Thor's lightning bolts for a second. Who was the Roman god with the lightning?
Jupiter. So Thursday has a double connection too. The king of the gods wielding thunder. And hey, doesn't the French word for Thursday, Judy, hint at Jupiter as well?
Exactly. The linguistic clues are all there if you know where to look. Now on to Friday, and this one's for the romantics out there.
Friday. Is it Venus? The goddess of love and beauty. Seems to fit. Does she have a Norse counterpart too?
She does. But Frigga, the Norse goddess of love, isn't nearly as well known as Venus.
Ha, poor Frigga, overshadowed by Venus. All right, last one. Let's wrap up the week with Saturday. What do we got?
Saturday brings us to Saturn, the Roman god associated with agriculture. And interestingly enough, time.
Time.
Yeah, maybe not the most obvious connection to a modern weekend, but fascinating nonetheless.
Yeah. It's kind of ironic, actually, Saturn linked to time ruling over the day we try to escape the clock. But wait, if all these days are based on what they considered planets, didn't things get kind of messed up when Copernicus came along?
Oh, you're absolutely right. The 16th century and Copernicus's heliocentric model totally revolutionized our understanding of the solar system.
Right. So that's when the sun and the moon got demoted from planet status, right? That must have been a big deal.
Huge shift in thinking. And it brought the planet count down to 5. Until we realized that Earth itself was a planet too. So back up to 6. And then, of course, we had the discovery of Uranus, which further expanded the solar system.
Okay, but here's what I don't get if we keep finding new planets. Why is our week still stuck at 7 days? Why didn't they add a day for Uranus or Neptune?
It's a great question. And, it reminds me of this funny story. When William Herschel, the guy who discovered Uranus, first found it, he actually wanted to name it Georgium Sidus, after King George III.
Imagine having Planet George Day every week.
Planet George Day. That would have been epic. Why didn't that catch on?
Well, let's just say the rest of the scientific community wasn't so thrilled about naming a planet after a king, especially one who was involved in a certain revolution across the pond.
Yeah, fair enough. But it is pretty amazing that the 7-day week has stuck around for so long, even with all these scientific discoveries. It's like a time capsule of ancient beliefs right there in our everyday lives.
It really is. It makes you wonder, though, if we were designing a calendar today based on our current understanding of the universe, what would it look like? Would we still have 7 days?
Whoa, now that's a mind-boggling thought. I'm already imagining a week with a black hole day or an Einstein day.
Uh-huh.
I love it. It really makes you think, about how our perception of time is so tied to our scientific understanding of the universe.
And what we choose to celebrate, too, right? Like, would a black hole day be a super serious, day of reflection? Or would we all dress up like astronauts and have a big party?
Ah, right.
Dun-
And would Einstein Day be all about, like, mind-bending puzzles and thought experiments?
Oh, man, now I'm really picturing this. Like, maybe we'd have Dark Matter Day where everybody wears black and we try to, finally figure out what it's all about.
I love it. It would be so interesting to see how our modern scientific knowledge, would shape not just the names of the days, but also, like, the traditions and rituals that go along with them.
Hmm. Yeah, and speaking of traditions, wouldn't it be really hard to break away from that 7-day structure? I mean, it's so ingrained in everything we do.
Oh, it would be a huge shift. Think about our work weeks, our weekends, even things like religious observances. They're all built around that 7-day cycle,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it how powerful those ancient observations were. They've really shaped our understanding of time for like millennia.
for sure. And it raises the question, is there something inherently special about the number 7? Or is it just a total coincidence?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, is 7 just this random number that stuck, or is there something deeper going on?
Well, I mean, the number 7 pops up in all sorts of cultures and contexts throughout history. There's the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the 7 colors of the rainbow, even the 7 deadly sins.
Hmm.
It's hard to say if it's just coincidence or if there's some deeper significance.
It's almost like 7 has this kind of mystical quality to it.
Right. But even if we could redesign the week today, don't you think we'd still need some kind of regular cycle to structure our lives?
Oh, absolutely.
You
We
know,
humans, we crave structure and rhythm. Whether it's a 7-day week, a 10-day week, or something totally different, we need a way to organize our time to create that sense of order.
yeah, it's like our own internal clock needs those markers to, keep everything running smoothly. Exactly. And that's what's so fascinating about this whole topic. It makes us realize that timekeeping isn't just about, tracking the movements of planets and stars. It's also about creating a framework for human experience.
It's almost like a collaboration between science and culture.
Right. I like that. Science gives us the raw materials, the movements of the planets, the cycles of the moon, but then culture steps in and shapes those materials into something meaningful, something that resonates with our very human need for order and understanding.
So even though our scientific knowledge has evolved like crazy, the fundamental human need for a structured week hasn't changed. It makes you wonder what other ancient systems or beliefs are still like woven into the fabric of our modern lives.
That's a great question to ponder, and it really speaks to the power of tradition, how the past continues to shape our present.
This deep dive has really opened up a whole new perspective on something I never really thought about before. Who knew the humble week had such a rich and fascinating history?
I know, right? It just goes to show that there's always something new to discover, even in the most seemingly ordinary things.
Absolutely. And I have a feeling our listeners are going to be looking at their calendars a little differently from now on.
I hope so. And hey, maybe they'll even be inspired to design their own ideal week.
Ooh, that's a great idea. Maybe we should put out a call on social media and see what kind of creative calendars our listeners come up with.
I'm sure they'll have some amazing ideas.
Yeah.
It's always so exciting to see how people interpret and reimagine these ancient concepts.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our little cosmic journey through the history of the week. It's been a blast exploring this with you.
I've enjoyed it immensely as well.
Mm.
It's always a pleasure to delve into these, unexpected corners of knowledge.
And for you listening out there, we hope this deep dive has given you a newfound appreciation for the 7 days that make up our week. And who knows, maybe it's even sparked a little curiosity to learn more about the fascinating history of timekeeping and the ways we humans have tried to make sense of our place in the cosmos. And hey, while you're thinking about all this, why not take it a step further and imagine how you would structure a week if you could start from scratch?
Oh, yeah.
Like, forget 7 days.
Right.
Go wild. Would you keep it at 7? Would
Yeah.
you add more days? What kind of, celestial events or scientific discoveries would you want to honor?
Exactly. Like, what about a space exploration day to, celebrate all those incredible missions we've sent out to other planets?
Ooh, I like that. Or maybe like a biodiversity day, to remind us of all the amazing life we have here on Earth.
Oh, that's a good one. A day to appreciate all those incredible creatures we share this planet with. It could even be a day for like environmental action and stuff.
Right. It's like weaving our hopes for the future into the very fabric of time.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it really gets to the heart of this whole thing. Time as we experience it, it's really a human construct.
Mhm.
We have the power to shape it, to give it meaning, to fill it with purpose.
It's kind of a humbling thought, but also really empowering at the same time. We might be bound by the laws of physics, but we also have the freedom to create, systems and structures that reflect our values and what we aspire to.
Absolutely. So as you go about your week, just remember, you're not just following some random schedule.
Yeah.
You're part of this grand experiment, this human endeavor to organize time and make sense of our place in the cosmos.
And who knows, maybe someday in the future, people will look back at our 7-day week with the same kind of curiosity we have for the ancient systems, the ones that came before us.
Maybe they'll wonder how we managed to cram our whole lives into these 7 little boxes. Or maybe they'll be inspired by our ideas to create something totally new, a system of timekeeping that reflects their own understanding of the universe.
Either way, this journey of exploring time and figuring out what it all means, it's definitely not over. So keep looking up, keep asking those big questions, and keep diving deep into the mysteries of the world around you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the history of the week. It's been a real pleasure exploring this with you.
We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. And until
Absolutely.
next time, keep those calendars handy and never stop exploring those fascinating stories behind the things we often take for granted. Thanks for listening.